Cheers to life. Cheers to Homo sapiens experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been somewhere, and where I went was attributed to 3 capital letters of a certain something. Now, you could say that that's God in all capitals. Woo! Now there's a thing. Now there's a thing. It could be God, but it isn't written like God. But the bizarre thing about this, people, in my book I speak about lots of experiences with these certain 3 letters, and I'm saying that it must be God, because there's such a connection between consciousness, these 3 letters, which is one long word beginning with D, love, ecstasy, pure bliss. So the moment I start, and I did it in a different way this time. Usually I do it using a bottle half the size of this, and you can see that there's a lot of volume to fill in from the end, to fill in all that before the opening. You break the bottom off and then the opening, so there's a lot of it to, you know, mill around before. And I found that you need like 2 very, very deep inhalations to get the required result. But this time I did it with one of these tiny versions, and I'd never been successful with that before, but I was this time. And so I partook in it, and instantly, as soon as God hits your nervous system, then you feel like you're having a massive orgasm. It's just a massive orgasm. This certain substance always tells you that it is pure love. And Dr. Rick Strassman wrote a book called The 3 Letters God Molecule, or Spirit Molecule, maybe. And he talks in that about 60 participants who had this stuff intravenously and saw incredible things. But what I saw, people, was that the whole natural world becomes living, loving, in a state of ecstasy. Everything you look at is in a state of ecstasy. When I look down here at these little grasses blowing, there's all patterns and symmetry, and there's just an overwhelming feeling of love and joy and vitality and consciousness and living and just enjoying that. And it's like, wow. And of course you can hone in to smaller patches and then go through into, you know, a bigger patch, and then you come back out into the bigger patch, and then you look over, something catches your eye, and then you hone back into that, and then it expands again. So you keep going in and out of this stuff. And I was in this state for about, I don't know, probably only 5 minutes. Whether I had my eyes closed or whether they were open. And when you go deep into it, your consciousness isn't there. Your ego isn't there. You are just experiencing another dimension, another world, and a feeling of ecstasy. And it really is orgasmic. And what happened on the previous occasions, because I partook in, you know, this certain activity about 200 times, and generally it's always a feeling of well-being and vitality, and I want to run around and skip like a 6-year-old and, you know, slap my thighs, you know, the joy of being alive. But when I was coming out of the experience, I started to feel a little bit sad. And I looked down at my feet, and my feet looked like a 90-year-old person's feet. And I'm like, fuck! I bent down looking at them, and they're all veiny and like death. They look like the death, and I'm like, do my feet really look like that? I wasn't aware of it. And looking at them now, fortunately they don't. But I have quite a lot of bites on my feet, and I don't know whether they are from the ants or from some other bug that I wasn't aware of, walking barefoot around here, but very itchy. And so when I looked down, I saw these very pronounced, and they've kind of like turned into like little boils. And some people have these sort of effects from mosquito bites. So it's been something that's bitten in relation, and they're very itchy. And so anyway, I looked down and I saw these boils on my feet, and I saw the veins and the old skin and all that, and I'm like, fuck, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. So anyway, just so I know some of you are dying to see, here you see those boils, and you know, the feet are not that old, but they certainly looked about 90 years old when I was coming out. And instead of feeling an overwhelming joy at the world now, I'm kind of like, I'm straight back to how I was before, which I've never experienced before. And you know, it's left me pretty contemplative about aging, but the point is, I'm very aware of it. So what it does, it accentuates whatever it is you're feeling. And so, of course, at 61, I'm 61 in October, then I am, you know, starting to feel 61 in some respects, albeit, you know, I could stand next to a 41-year-old and people would think I was in better condition than them. But it's all relative, and so it's what you're aware of. And I was aware of my mortality, and the fact that one day I'm going to leave this incredible world. And so I feel a little bit contemplative, and where better to feel contemplative, I suppose, again, than in a graveyard, looking around and being aware of my mortality. So I drink to the three-letter God, and I praise that incredible world and experience of love and ecstasy, and I bring some of it back again. And when I looked around at all these trees and anything that's living, it's just alive, and it's cartoon-like, and it's fun. It's kind of like Looney Tunes. Hey, 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 woo, splash, sploosh, pop, bang, ha ha. It's all like that, and you look around, and it's like, and when I looked at the church, well, the church was kind of pristine. Everything man-made is pristine, and if you partake in this stuff in a city, then all the cars look like they are driving around like scale electrics, and all the buildings look like they're Lego. And so all of a sudden you're in a toy world, and that's very three letters. I don't want to say it because, you know, in recent times I put up a video just saying that these certain fungi look like a certain fungi, and that was it. The video was deleted and I had a strike. And I'm like, I never said it was, I never said take them, I never spoke anything about them. But this is the world we're living in, these present times, people. And, you know, I don't know where we're going with this when we're becoming so muted on so many things. We're becoming so muted via our realization and our involvement in the world and our perspective. It's suppressing and minimalizing what we can say about our experience of the world. We can no longer state our experience in lots of realms. And so all these things which are absolutely incredible, you go into another world for 5 minutes and then you come back perfectly sane, and you know, there's no ill health to me or anybody, and yet we're not allowed to do that. And I just think that is seriously nefarious. And when people start thinking about the world is governed by evil, well, many circumstances like that convey that that absolutely seems to be true. If you can't partake in any entheogens, and if you can't express what you have experienced or discovered within those experiences to your fellow man, because maybe they might want to try it, and then they too will have an awakened consciousness, and that will never do, because this dimension is all about the suppression of consciousness, and incidentally always has been. Anyway, not to slip into a negative paradigm in relation to certain facets of that, but just to bask for a little bit longer in what is kind of like a miracle. And on all subsequent occasions, once in any given day would invariably have never been enough. I would have been like, wow, I'm going back in again. But this time, I don't know. I think it depends on how powerful and how much, because there's different levels, grades of heights or depths what you go to, and when you go deep you lose all awareness of ego and of the being. You lose all that and you're just in another world, and that's great, but you don't tend to retain too much of it. It's absolutely astonishing, and Terence McKenna would always say that, you know, you risk death by astonishment, and you really do. But if you take less, then you can have more awareness. You can get the crazy stuff, but you've got more presence of awareness, and I think I prefer that one, because it enables me to be more engaged in the world and to retain more of the excursion, and to bring more back. Yeah, to remember more of it. Now, my top lip, bottom lip and the tongue they felt a little bit swollen because of the heat. Felt a little bit burnt, but they don't feel burnt now. And so when I came back from that excursion, and of course I'm intent on making a video, and I'm thinking, well, there's no point at all. And do you know what? I simply do not listen to anybody else's experience with entheogens these days, because they are so subjective. And this person, wow, crazy this, that and the other. That person, wow, crazy, I was terrified, oh, I was ecstatic. And you know, all this stuff. And it's kind of like, well, every single one of us has a different experience, to be fair. And if we try to express or explain where we went, what we experienced, then invariably we couldn't meet with anybody else's experience either, because they would have had something else. Now, unfortunately, I was too busy mesmerized by all of the living creatures in the grass and the little leaves of plants and everything. That's like, it's like being in Jurassic Park, where every single plant in Jurassic Park is an animal. It's actually alive. Well, things are alive, people. The whole world, the cosmos, is alive. Only we are dead to most of it. Of course, grass is alive, and all these things are sentient. And it's even said that you can record the screaming of grass when it's being cut. And you know, there's lots of things where plants respond to music and environments and being spoken to and all this different sort of stuff. There's so many things that most of us are just not aware of. We're not prepared to accept, because we've been dumbed down into these things. But when you partake in these things, then you know that that is all true. And it is kind of like you know, experiencing mushrooms, which last, of course, 6, 8, 10 hours, and you're walking around and you know that everything is sentient and conscious, and things even speak to you. So it's just another level of consciousness, and it really is remarkable. And so yeah, I didn't look up at the clouds this time, and if I did, I would have saw many varieties of being. And so I'm almost inclined to go again and just try to be consciously paying attention to the clouds this time. I'm distracted by all this stuff. Oh. Anyway, many of you won't know what I'm speaking about. Some of you will. Some of you will want to know. Some of you do really want to know, because it's just a game changer, people. Entheogens are game changers, and once you've experienced other worlds, other ways of looking at this world, then your psyche is never the same, and it's changed for the better, because it gives you a greater appreciation and insight into what really is going on here on other levels of consciousness. You see, we have this tiny slither of consciousness. Can you imagine all the different sorts of consciousness that there is? There's grass consciousness, there's sun consciousness, there's tree consciousness. You know, Rupert Sheldrake, he has a hypothesis that the sun is conscious, and he says, why wouldn't it be? Because at the end of the day, he says that the sun is given to electromagnetism, and our brain is given to electromagnetism. So the sun is just a bigger version of our brains. And so why wouldn't the sun be conscious? How is it that so many ancient peoples have worshipped the sun? Because they've felt something like that. So it's supposed to be 20 degrees today, and unfortunately as soon as the sun goes behind the clouds it feels a little bit chilly, and there's quite a lot of clouds in the sky, and so I'll wrap this video up, I'll put my shirt on, and I'll see what happens next.